I'm on mute. Look at that. That would happen right towards the end. What's going on, folks? I'm Nick Karaskevich, host of The Tread. This is episode number 14, closing out towards the end. Here is season 1. And I decided to bring something that's been, I know, a hot topic at a lot of the shows across ball pythons. I wanted to bring Charlie from Grey Rider Reptiles on so we could talk about genetic shed testing and some of the really cool things he's also doing from a ball python breeding perspective. So, Charlie, feel free to introduce yourself here to our tread heads, we'll call
them. What's going on? Thanks for having me on. My name is Charlie, Grey Rider Reptiles. I'm a small ball python breeder. I have 20-something ball pythons, and about a year ago, I got into the DNA testing for sheds after seeing Dr. Hannah Seidel on a few podcasts, and I figured, let me see if something like this is possible for somebody to do at home and not in a lab with zero biology or any bio lab in college. That's about it.
Right.
And I didn't think it was going to be possible, but I had to look into it. So I started doing research, and I saw that there was equipment that I could afford to buy. Yeah. And if it didn't work, I wasn't going to be like in the hole a ton of money or have loans or anything like that. So I took a shot, and it's been going good.
Yeah. I mean, with all of that, obviously, so one, kind of, to back it up a bit, how long have you been around reptiles? I know you jumped kind of at least back into the ball python game roughly, like what was it, a year and a half ago or so, maybe a little bit longer than that?
Yeah, so probably I would say almost 2 years now, but about a year and a half, almost 2 years. I've been back in the ball python game. I had ball pythons in the 90s when I was younger in high school, just normal pet store ball pythons.
Right.
And then I went away to college, got rid of all my reptiles and everything, got back from college, had bearded dragons, had turtles, Then I got, and I think it was like 2008, I went to a reptile show in White Plains, New York, and I saw an albino ball python, and I was like, holy crap. I'm like, this is awesome. I need to make one of these. So I bought 2 hats. Actually, one was a pos hat, and then I wanted to make a bumblebee. So I had 4 snakes. And then about a couple months before my wedding, my wife was like, we got to get these snakes out of here. They were in our kitchen in our 1-bedroom apartment. And she's like, this is crazy. So I wound up selling them. And there was a reptile show about 2 years ago locally here. And I'm now in the capital region by Albany, New York.
Okay.
And I went and I saw even more morphs. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, I got to do this. So I jumped back in about almost 2 years ago now.
No, right. Yeah. And then like the genetic testing part, I find that really interesting. Like you said, you took that, I think that shot that I think everyone from an entrepreneur perspective, we always want to do, but I think some people don't know where to start. I guess, where did that kind of catch you where you said, hey, I know you mentioned you saw, some of the podcasts, said, hey, let's see if I can do that. I guess, was it more to help as far as aiding your kind of personal, your breeding goals and stuff? Or was it more just kind of like let's just, go nerd out over this from a science perspective? Because I kind of sort of understand, the process, but obviously, from myself, I don't, fully know what goes on. I hear words like, primers and gels and all that type of stuff going on.
Well, first of all, Mike from M&K Exotics, he's bought a lot of amazing stuff recently, ball python wise. So look out for him even now, but in the future, he's going to have some crazy stuff going on. But yeah, so I have that type of brain where I need to know how everything works. And it pisses me off if I don't know how something works. And it gets me even more mad if I can't find out how it works via the internet. Like I have a computer science degree. I was born around computers, had computers my whole life. I'm really good with them, really good at researching on them. And even in my current job as an investigator, I love digging into things and looking into things. And I started probably about 5 years ago. I saw a CNC laser, how to make your own little CNC laser on And I was like, man, that is awesome. Like you could have it engrave on stuff and just like not touch it. I can't draw for shit. Like
same
ability, whatever. But I could do stuff on a computer and I could build things and I know like a little engineering and a little electrical work and programming, obviously, and stuff like that. So I looked into it and I followed these step-by-step directions and I made one.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is awesome. I can't believe this works. So now I need to make a better one. And then I made a better one. And then I built a CNC router, then a CNC plasma cutter. And it just, that now is a pretty big business of mine. A side business that I have is like that sign. I made that.
I was going to ask that exact same thing. Did you cut that then?
Yeah. And so right behind me here is, I have a big 4x8 CNC router. And then I have all my powder coat and grinding stations in here. This is a shed that I'm in that I built 2 years ago for my equipment before I had the snakes. And then I had to cut a piece off to make it a snake room. But so that's how I work. Like, I'm like, how are these things, how are they automated? How does this automation work? How does this work? How does that work? And then when I saw Dr. Hannah Seidel on a podcast talking about it, I was just like, let me see, like, let me look into it. And so I started looking into it and I talked to a few people and I found a website that you could buy the stuff on. And before I spent the money, I did even more and more research. And I thought I knew what I was doing before I even got the stuff. I was like, all right, I know how this works. Right. I watched thousands of hours of YouTube, read everything I could read. I know how this is going to work. Once I get it, I know exactly what to do. So I spent the money and ordered everything. And then the first time I tried to do it, I was like, this is so not what I thought it was going to be. But I already spent all that money, and then there was no way I was going to just be like, all right, I don't know how to do it. I can't do it. So
all right,
kept reading and then got help from other scientists that are in the genetics field, not necessarily in snake genetics field.
Yeah.
But, and they're telling me, and they were reading some of Dr. Seidel's papers along with me and kind of translating that biology talk to something that I would understand.
Yeah.
And that helped a lot. And about 6 months of testing and like guys like Mike and other guys sending me sheds to practice on and, to do things like that. And honestly, there was a point where I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to offer this out to anybody else because I don't know if I know how to do it right, like every time. And then it finally clicked, and now I could do it every time. And I figured out what I was doing wrong, and it works good now. So initially, like I didn't get into it saying like, oh, I could buy this stuff, and then I could offer it out and make a fortune on it. Or I thought it was more like I could buy this and I could learn how to extract DNA from these snake sheds. But then, oh man, I'm a police investigator. I could do stupid stuff around my house, like take my wife's hair DNA, like just like a little child games with like DNA, that's what was going on in my head. Like, to see how this technology worked. And this was all before RGI ever came out publicly saying like, we're offering these ball python shed tests. Like nobody was offering them except for Dr. Hannah Seidel. And that was all research for her university.
Yeah.
So then when I was like, all right, I was talking to a lot of guys I know, they're like, no, you gotta pump this out. You could do it. You could do it for other people. And, and at that time RGI came out and I was like, oh, all right, well, somebody else is doing it. And these guys are real scientists. So I'm never going to, nobody's going to use me.
Right.
But people have been like, a lot of people like the personable, being able to talk to me, being able to, and I answer everybody's questions on Instagram, text messages. Yeah. People FaceTime me. Like the other day I was sitting in my snake room and all of a sudden my Instagram phone rang or whatever through the chat. And there was some guy just like, hey, I got a shed here. Can I send this to you? I just want to show you what it looks like. And this is, so I tell him like, all right, yeah, do this, do that. Okay. All right, cool. Like you can't get that with like a big company.
And you can't. I mean, that was my thing. Obviously, like when I found out about you, like that was the first thing that clicked into my head is, well, I mean, I grew up, my whole family was always, my grandfather owned multiple of his own, little small businesses. And I was like, all right, screw it. Let's let's go to the non-giant corporation with all the big backers, because I mean, realistically, I mean, I've gotten the sheet from you because I've sent sheds in, I've got my results. I mean, they look the same as RGI. It's the same thing. It tells that breakdown. The only difference that I get is that with you, I get a faster response, I get a faster reply. And then when I'm like, I don't know what the heck this even means, you can break it down and explain it. And I think that's the nice part, because you went through all those trials and tribulations. So you understand where someone like myself is coming from, where it's like, okay, like slow down. Like I'm stuck here. Like get me from point A to point B, type of a thing. So
yeah, definitely.
I mean, I think that's been unique. I also don't want to say anything, but like Charlie's been my good luck charm here as it relates to a lot of my gravel and my asphalt stuff. All my big time all my big time gambles for the most part have paid off in those spaces.
But for every one of you, there's somebody else. Like I had somebody send me 7 sheds to test for hypo the other day, and I tested them all, and 1 of 7 tested positive.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they were all 50% pos het, and
right.
I was like, man, I'm sorry. They're like, oh, it's not your fault. And I'm like, I know, but I hate giving people the bad news.
Right. I remember like when you told me that on the one girl I tested, it was like 66% head hypo that I got from a buddy. And I was like, I don't know. I never used it for head hypo. Let's just test it before I start testing all of her babies from the past like 3-4 years. Yeah. And you're like, well, she's not head hypo. I'm sorry. And I'm like, like that's okay. She's still on a Leela combo. I don't care. Right. But yeah, I mean, I think that's, like I said, that's the other piece to it. I mean, too, as well. I mean, our GI is not going to be like, I feel like there's not the same, you know, by no means. I mean, look, they're great people, but
they're awesome. They have nothing bad at all.
And I think that's the thing, like you said, is it's unique to be able to have that connection, to have that breeder connection. I think is the other thing too. Someone who's in the space, who is also messing around in the quote unquote, you know, snake laboratory, trying to figure out pairings, breedings, and do the same thing without, you know, spending $1 million to make $100. And part of that is doing possets.
Right. Yep. 100%. Yeah. I mean, like I follow them. I watch all their videos. I ask them questions. I've talked to them on DM. You know, they're great, and I completely respect everything they're doing. They're crushing it, like and like but the thing is, a different thing is, 1, that's a doctor over there with other doctors with him. 2, a lot more money than I have going into that. And 3, that's his only job.
Yeah, exactly.
This is my 4th job. So it's a different ball game. Like I want to find some new genes myself, and I'm working on it. But I just can't take a whole weekend and dedicate it to just looking for, you know, just figuring out, because I have to still figure out how to do it. I'm pretty close, and I have a really good idea on how to do it. But there are multiple different ways to identify the location of a gene. And they all cost different amounts of money. Some cost more money, might be a little bit easier. Some are a little less, but might take more work on the back end after you get all your sequencing results. So it's just time that I don't have right now.
And it's 4 jobs on top of also being, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously you're a husband, you're also a father as well. So like you got to balance that as well.
And it's. So Orner Exotics tests it's $50. I charge $50 a test. And if, you know, pretty much anybody comes to me and has multiple tests to do, I try to take care of them as best as I can. And then obviously if you're testing 1 shed for 2 genes, the next gene is $25, because it saves me a step. I don't have to extract the DNA again. I still have to pay for sequencing and all that again. So I'm really not making any money on that second one, but I'm not spending as much time. So it's fine. I'm cool doing that.
And what I've been telling people too, I mean, Gary, I know Gary pretty well, but I've been telling people too is, I mean, I try to send in like, you know, 5-6 at a time. I mean, like my second set here that I've been wanting to send you, like I'm waiting on 3 more girls to shed out, because I'm just like, oh, let's get another, you know, 5 to 8 again. I mean, you know, folks, if you're thinking about how can I do it most efficiently, do it that way, because then you're saving on your postage. And then you're saving on your postage. And
at that point, since I am smaller, I don't get 10 sheds in a day or 100 sheds in a day
Right.
like RGI does. So if someone sends me one and I have to do just that one, I'm barely making anything off of doing that one test because it
Right.
still costs me the same amount of money to run the gel, to all the pipettes, the reagents, things like that, if I'm just doing one. But if I could get a few, and then I have to ship to a lab to get it sequenced after I do
Right.
my end. So the shipping, $10 to ship it, $11 for the sequencing. By that time on one, I'm not making that much money, if any. So
Yeah.
if you're sending me 5, 6, 7, 8, it's way easier for me to give you a better price than what I'm giving, and I'm already $15 cheaper
Yeah.
than RGI.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it too, people, I'll say it right here. I mean, time is money when it comes to some of those sheds. And for me, when I sent in the Charlie, like I was still expecting, well, it might take, 2-3 months or something like that. I didn't know what the turnaround time was. I didn't ask. And from my perspective, I was just happy to send sheds in. I think I got the first one back. I think it was like a week and a half. And Charlie was like, sorry, it took so long. And I was like, took so long. I'm like, a week and a half. I'm like, I was expecting like in 2 months to hear from you.
yeah,
So,
no, I try to keep it under 2 weeks. I try to keep it. So my hypo and lavender albino right now, I could do completely at home.
Yeah.
So I could, and when I'm running it on the gel, I could tell from the gel run whether or not it's head or not. But everything else, after I do the PCR, I have to then run it on the gel to make sure I actually successfully extract the DNA.
Right.
And then I have the primers worked so that I still have to check and see what band, how do I explain it? Like when you see those lines,
Right. Yeah.
like that has to be in a certain spot so that I know, like, okay, I did everything right up to this part. Now
Yeah.
I can send it off to the lab and they sequence it. So what I try to do is send every Monday morning. I try to have everything. In the beginning, that's what I was doing. Now I'm sending multiple times a week because I'm getting more sheds in. But if I get a shed on Saturday, there's a good chance that, and I have to send it out. There's a good chance Wednesday you'll have your results.
Right.
If I get a shed on Wednesday, you probably have to wait till that next Wednesday. So it all depends on when I get it. And I try, if I have a lot, I try to keep them, do all pides at once, do all gravels at once. It makes my life a lot easier and it makes less chance of mistakes as well.
Right.
Because every one of them uses different primers and everything. So if I could do 8 at a time of just one gene, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But if you send me a hypo and I happen to be running a test that night, like there's been people that I've had tests sent to me. I get home from work at a little after 4:00 in the afternoon and they'll have their results. And I see that sheds in the mail, they'll have their results at 9:00 that night. And they're like, what? You just texted me and said you got my shed. How do you have the results?
Yeah.
Because I could do it,
Yeah. Right.
something like that. So
yeah.
I try to get it under 2 weeks at all times. Right now, I've still been able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Crazy hatchling season, if I do get busier, which would be great, maybe I'm still going to try for 2 weeks because if it gets busier, I'm going to be able to upgrade my equipment to do more at once.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the plan. Like if it does get busy, I could do double the amount.
Right.
If I spend some more money on equipment.
Yeah.
And I could get that equipment like within 2 days. So if I see all of a sudden like, holy crap, it's getting busy, I'll invest the money and get stuff just to try to keep that time down because
right.
I don't have to. I could say, all right, 3 weeks. It'd still be probably quicker, but I hate waiting for things.
Yeah.
That's why I'm an Amazon Prime whore. Like I am even like the guy that looks for delivered tomorrow. Like I hate when it's not delivered tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like, and I try to keep it as quick as I can.
Yeah. I know Todd's here is asking, about obviously how many different genes you have deciphered. I mean, it's yellow belly, it's hypo, it's lavender, it's asphalt, it's gravel, it's pied, candy, albino, and Ultramil. You have, what is it? It says like, I think it's like part B or something like that.
Yeah. So Ultramil is what the test we could test for right now for Ultramil is the most common line of Ultramel. There are a couple of other, one or two other lines that are not very common that are out there that if it tests negative, there's a chance that it could still be positive.
Right.
But yeah, Orner, 100% accurate for the ones that I do, with the exception of Ultramel, and that's all disclaimered on the website. And if the Ultramel test, if either me or somebody else figures out the other lines of Ultramel and shares that information with me, I keep all the sheds people send me filed away. So if I have a negative Ultramel test and I get the test for the other one, I'm just going to test it for free for them and let them know.
Right. Yeah. And for folks that have been wondering, if you haven't already found Charlie on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, right there at the bottom there. So that's his square site. You go right there. It's really nice and easy to use, where you can go through reading the process of, as far as shipping sheds, the store policies, contact information. You can basically real easily add everything to your cart, check out, do that payment, and then ship your sheds off. So real fast and easy. I know when I did it for the first time, I reached out, I messaged Charlie, I said, hey, I think I have everything right. He confirmed as far as what I need to do. Did that, checked out, sent them out, got my results. And Orner, Gary, just like you said, 50, 60 bucks for a ball python test, makes a big difference, especially with some of these, multi-recessive projects or allelic recessive type combinations. Put it in perspective, Gary, I turned what was a $1,500 purchase basically into roughly probably around at least $5,000 plus, with the, red stripe, asphalt, clown, plus in that same package, I have her sister, which is a Pastel Freeway head clown. So I feel pretty good now. So that's kind of the big thing. So that's one way to do it. If you want to, take those gambles, because you're always going to see that from breeders, but also from everything you produce yourself. I know for me, I'm excited for, whenever the Desert Ghost test on your site comes out. I just held back 11 in a clutch here of Nanny, 100% head pied, 50% head Desert Ghost. And I'm like, nice. I don't want to sell the Nanny ones that actually prove head Desert Ghost.
Yeah. Definitely. No,
yeah.
That's the other thing. Like I have a decent amount of like candy pieds, like stuff. I have no visual candy pieds, but I'm trying to make some this year. And there are certain combos that for my breeding next year that I'm like, man, I could do this head to head now.
Right.
Like if I want to get more co-dominant genes and dominant genes in my, if I only have a het in that and don't make the visual in that, I could test it and breed that one next year because I know that it's the het.
Yeah. Well, and that brings me into, I think, obviously some of your projects you got going. So obviously, like I put it on the thumbnail because at least out of what I know is in your collection, that's one of the really cool ones. I know it's some crazy acid combo. It's like acid, is it mahogany or
acid? That one is a black pastel, black head acid.
There we go. I know it was like a double or triple dark.
Yeah. So I like the dark genes, but I also like candy. And I love Ultramel too. I don't have any Ultramel, but I would like to get into that eventually. But my plan is I really want to make like a super dark, like clown combination with hypo in it. Like
no, I'm right there. I'm right there with you.
My favorite colors are orange and black. So I would love to get like I have this hypo black pastel het pied girl. She is so like orangey. Like I really want to get her into the clown pied hypo thing. Like, so, but this year, most of my females hopefully will be laying acid het somethings.
Right.
I have 2 acid males. I have that black pastel black head, and then I have a super Wookiee acid male.
Yeah.
And he doesn't eat anymore. And he doesn't breed anymore. He only locked once, but the girl that he locked with, eggs are in my incubator right now. So I'm praying that he's the daddy and not the clown pos het candy that I started breeding to before I had the test.
Right.
And I tested him and he's not het candy.
Yeah.
So I sold him and started putting other things to it.
No, right.
That's the thing. That saved me a year.
Yeah.
I would have this clutch that would be in here right now. I'd be crossing my fingers like, please give me a candy. Please give me a candy. And that means there'll be candy het clowns. But I know now that there's no way in hell that there's going to be a candy in there.
And I think that's a good point too. I mean, for a lot of folks like, myself and you and stuff who are so, smaller, or we haven't been doing this for, 20 plus years breeding type of a thing. I mean, it saves us a lot of time to be able to catch up by spending that $50. And like you said, when we do it, because, we maybe only have, 30 girls or 50 girls to go from, not, I don't know which girl to put it to. I've got, 125 or 250 or 300, like some of these folks have, or even more. Todd's asking here around, new recessives for testing you're looking to get into. I know me and you have talked about, I think clown is one that you're working on right now.
Yeah,
or trying
clown
to get
is the first one that I need to get. I might be getting it from another scientist at some point that is working on his doctorate and found clown. He has it. He also has VPI exantic, and he was supposed to give that to me a long time ago, but he can't now because he has to wait till he finishes his doctorate, which it is what it is. That's more important than what I'm doing. But eventually he'll have it. So I don't know if I want to put the time and the money in to finding clown if by the time I get it all figured out, this guy's going to release it to me anyway.
Right.
So I might go a different route, and like I would love to find, I don't have any sunset, but I would like to get sunset. I think a lot of people would do that.
Yeah.
Desert Ghost would be another one, but I know Desert Ghost is very hard to find. So that's definitely not going to be one of the first couple I do.
Because, Sunset, I think we can help you out. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think he's on watching right now, but I've been pretty good friends with Brock Wagner. So Brock, I mean, when you are watching this, hit Charlie up or hit me up, man. Let's start finding ways to ship him sheds for Sunset. I know.
Yeah, I have a decent amount of Sunset sheds from. Do you know Kai from Lucas Landon?
Yeah.
He's been sending me sheds to test, and then every time he sends me sheds, he always adds in his Sunset stuff because he wants me to get it too. So I think that's probably going to be the first one that I go for. At first I was like, oh, you know what? I got to try to do things that RGI is not going to do just to separate myself.
Right.
But it's not worth even thinking about what they might have everything right now.
Right.
I don't know.
Or 2 months away from everything.
It's going to be what makes most sense for me right now.
Yeah.
And what people close to me, like guys that I talk to a lot of guys want Sunset. So I'd rather make the people that, support me happy.
Right.
So
I know Ultramil, you're probably going to make Todd very happy here. Todd does a lot of Ultramil. So
yeah, I love Ultramil. I mean, the only problem is that I have a decent amount of candy stuff, and I don't know if I want to add that other recessive that is sort of the same thing,
Right.
But I love it. I wish I would have gotten into that when I started purchasing everything. I'm gonna, because I do like it so much. I don't care about the money portion of it. Like, I want one just because I want one. Because Black Pastel, Ultramil, I love them. Like Ultramil Pieds, Ultramil Clowns, they're all awesome.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was kind of my reason. I mean, same thing. I mean, when I got into Sunset finally, I mean, I was just like, I don't know 100% which, project I was going to move it into, but I said, you know what, I want one, so that's why I grabbed it.
I'm like back and forth whether I want one or not. I have so many other things that I want to spend the money on to get my current projects going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I buy a visual male Sunset and a het female Sunset, I could buy this amazing snake to make my clown project like go crazy,
right.
So it's like you kind of got to pick and choose your battles. So once the prices come down a little bit, I'll probably just grab one. And Gary, what you're asking there with the ghosts and the hypo stuff, so orange ghost is same as your ghost lines and your hypos. It's all in the same complex. Green ghost, I put an asterisk on because I don't think it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a Corey Woods thing with green ghost. I mean, I don't even know if it's ever been, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's fully been, vetted.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I've heard some other people that have potentially green ghost and whatnot, but That's been kind of a weird one.
And I know Orange Ghost is the same because I have this Orange Ghost female and I tested her, and my test for hypo ghost worked for that. Let me see if she's right there. Yeah.
You're gonna get Gary all excited. So Gary is big time, like godfather of geckos, and now he's gonna start playing around with ball pythons now too.
You got to, man.
Yeah.
Hey, if I knew more about geckos, maybe I'll see if we could figure out some genetic testing for geckos.
Oh, Gary, look at that one. Look at that one. Gary like reverse engineers like all the different line breeding with geckos and stuff. So I mean,
that's the thing. Isn't gecko more line breeding rather than genetics?
Gary or someone who's gecko person, please answer on that because I'm not a gecko gay. Is that a oh yeah as far as like you want the snake, or oh yeah as far as that it's line bred, Gary? I just want to make sure. I want to make sure because we don't know
what I mean. This is a orange ghost, black pastel, het pied, and I love how the orange come out in the black pastel.
Yeah. So leopard geckos are a lot more line bred. There we go. There we go. Yeah.
What about
hypo's totally underrated.
Yeah. Is crested geckos? Those are the other ones that are pretty big now. Everybody's doing.
Yeah, cresteds. I think.
Leechies.
Yeah, cresteds, leechies, the whole gargoyle market. I feel bad for those folks. They're like just kind of like sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably get a gecko or something at some point. The snake room's kind of a mess now, but once I get everything set up the way I want it, I want to have a couple display animals like up on the wall.
Yeah.
And then my racks for the ball pythons over there, and some other cool reptiles to look at instead of looking at the racks.
No, right. I mean, that's the whole reason. I mean, I've always, even when I moved away from lizards to snakes, I jumped back with the monitor and stuff. And I mean, eventually she'll be next to the snake room. I might end up cutting a window into the snake room so I can look into her enclosure.
What kind of monitor is that?
So this is a baby ornate monitor or an ornate Nile. So Varnus ornatus.
So that's a Nile monitor?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember back in the 90s or 2000s when I was looking into monitors, I just remember everything. Nile monitors were like the nastiest son of bitches in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I had mangroves. I had a male and a female set that I was growing up for breeding and stuff. They were wild caught, and, something had to have gone weird because, I mean, they were going well. I'm thinking it was something with their fish supply or something. They ended up toasting them because my female just randomly died, and then my male croaked like 2 weeks after. But I think he died of depression because as soon as she died, they were like bonded. It was really cool because they were communal and they were bonded. They were always together. The female would do everything first, and then the male would follow her. It was really funny like that. The female would beat the crap out of him. And, I loved him. I mean, the female was hand tamed. The male bit me on the hand on Christmas Eve. But those are gram-negative bacteria, so they suck. So I was looking at when I was going to go jump back in, I said, all right, like I was thinking Asian water monitor. And then my buddy got a hold of these ornate Niles, and he's like, what's the worst that can happen, man? He goes, I'll give you one for $100. He goes, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So, I mean, I've been working with her, and, knock on wood. I mean, she doesn't bite. She just tail whips a ton. And that's my fear.
At the it was the White Plains Reptile Show. I bought a Savannah monitor hatchling, not realizing that the wild caught million wild caught one, it was cheap. It was like $40 or something. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I already researched Savannah monitors, so I knew about them and everything, and brought it home. I swear to God, I think that thing lasted like 2 weeks and died.
Yeah.
It had like a respiratory infection, like right away, mucus coming out of his nose. I was like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah. And for anyone that doesn't know, folks, I mean, if you do go, obviously to any reptile expo from a monitor perspective, if you don't know if it's captive bred or not, just assume that it's at least farm caught. Get Panicure. is what I tell people. Get Panicure. I try to do at least 2 rounds of Panicure on mine, just because if you can get rid of those parasites and those worms, you got a better shot. Then the rest of it from there is just temperament.
Right. Yeah, this thing hissed at me from it must have been like this big.
Oh yeah,
nasty, puffing, hissing. I was like, what? I thought these things were supposed to be like the dogs of the monitors. He was not a happy camper.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I have a super dwarf retic. That's my only display right now, and he's about a year old, but he's 100% super dwarf, so he's still pretty small. He's good once I get him out.
Right.
Super food aggressive. Like, you know, they always talk about it and you always hear about it, but this thing will strike at anything that goes in there, like anything. So I have a little hook. I tap him. I lift him up a little bit, and then he's good.
Yeah.
But if I tried to go in there and just like change his water or something without letting him know,
all right,
he's going right at me.
Do you see that as potentially something in the future, like retic testing? I know there's a lot of different morphs and genetics and retics.
I think it was last week, laying in bed is where I do a lot of my thinking until I pass out. But I said, you know what? I got to reach out to some of these big super dwarf and retic breeders and start getting some sheds. Because once I figure out how to do the ball pythons, I'm going to start doing the retics.
Right.
Because I like them. They interest me. And there's, especially in the super dwarfs, there's so many pos hets of everything because they're trying so hard to get them dropped down in size that you have, when you're first starting out with trying to get these genes into a Kalatoa or something, you're going to be doing tons of het to hets.
Right.
So many are pos het this, pos het that. And I think that would be a huge game changer.
And that's what I was asking. I mean, because of that. And then, I mean, I don't know. Like, I know, like, some folks with their super dwarfs, like, you know, reach out and stuff. They're able to test it all the way where they can tell you, you know, oh, this is like 98% super dwarf or whatever. I don't even know if that's something genetically that can be tested.
No. So the way that goes is, like, I have 100%. Mine is 50% Kalatoa, 50% Kayawati. So all that is like, so if you have 100%, you have a Kalatoa from Kalatoa Islands, it's 100%. You breed that to a mainland retic, normal, huge retic. All the babies are 50% super dwarfs now.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's just a percentage of, it has nothing to do with genetics.
Okay. Yeah.
That percentage. So you usually see like 50%, 62.5%, whatever, and then 72 point something, and it goes up from there. But that's why mine's not a morph. Mine looks like a wild caught retic. It's just a regular, you know, looking retic, but he's tiny. You know, he's awesome though. Like, I really want to get another morph of retic. Well, a morph of retic, somewhat of like a super dwarf. But again, every time I look at buying one, I'm like, that money could go to the ball python.
Another ball python. And that's what ended up happening with me with the boas. I mean, folks I love red tails. And I ended up getting rid of my 2 girls, and I said, you know what? I don't have the time to be able to scale that side how I wanted. I said, I just pressed pause, and I said, in a few years I can jump back into it. But and it was that, and I just kind of looked at it and I said, if I really wanted to breed boas, I wanted BCOs. I wanted those Argentines.
Yeah. I've never owned a boa, but my good friend growing up had a huge boa in his bedroom, but it was the nastiest thing in the world. You couldn't go near it. But his dad, I remember, bought home 2 hatchling red tail boas, and I was like, oh my God, those are the coolest looking snakes. And I still look at them a couple times a week. I'm on Morph Market looking at boas, and I'm like, you have enough.
Yeah. I think, you know, I think that's kind of one of the things. I mean, as you look as kind of how your projects are, you know, progressing and stuff. I mean, we talked about obviously the few recessive projects potentially you're looking to get into. I mean, is there kind of maybe that one really big? I feel like every breeder has it. That one real big, like, long-term goal. It might be multi-recessive or multi-codoms or incomplete dominance going in. I mean, what's the big driver right now?
Right now, I would say, since it was my first recessive project that I bought into, was the candy pied stuff.
Yeah.
One, because I always looked at dreamsicles when in 2000 and probably, I don't know, 10, 12, whenever I would browse, I saw them and I'm like, oh my God, these are awesome. I need this. And then when I got back in 2 years ago, I saw that they weren't such a big deal anymore. Everybody had them.
Yeah.
And, so then I found out about the candy gene, and I started talking to a guy who's now a friend of mine, Sal Gomez Pythons down in Ohio. He's big into candy, and I went down to his place, and he's got awesome candy stuff. He's got a lot of awesome snakes. But me and him started talking candy, and so I bought a bunch of stuff from him. But it was always candy pied. So now I just bought from him a few months ago chocolate double het candy clown, and then a normal female het candy clown.
Okay, and you just read my mind there. I was going to say I really want to see a candy clown pie. I don't think I've seen one yet.
So listen to this. So Sal had, this was before I ever announced that I could do shed testing. Obviously, I told the guys I talked to, he had sent me like 7 sheds like that were het candy, het clown, pos het pieds.
Right.
And some pos het candy, pos het pieds. And I proved out like 3 or 4 triple hets for him. Not even triple hets. One visual and double hets. So he has a couple of candy double het clown pieds, and clown double het candy pieds that he didn't know until I tested them. That he was not expecting it, but he had them. So probably about 2 weeks ago, I was like, man, I got to get some crazy male to go with these double het candy clowns. I was like, only thing available on Morph Market is like, I think there's a GHI double het. Everything else is just like normal double het or pastel double het.
Yeah.
So yes, Todd, candy, toffee are the same. But I was asking him, he's like, listen, you remember those sheds you tested for me? I said, yeah. He's like, I have one male I have 3 males. He's like, I was going to keep all 3 of them. But I might be able to part with one of them.
Right.
It's to you. He's like, I'm not putting it up for sale. He's like, but if you want it, I'll sell it to you. So he figured out which one he wanted to keep a candy and a clown. So I bought one of the, I didn't get it yet, but I have a clown het candy het pied. So he's going to be going to my double hets. So my ultimate goal right now is a candy clown pied.
Yeah.
I have hopefully this year, leopard and cinnamon getting into the candy pied project. And then I have chocolate.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I bred since I have the genetic testing, I have 2 female candy het pieds that are breeders this year.
Okay.
And I was breeding my leopard cinnamon het candy pied male to them. But once I started being able to test, I was like, I want to get acid and black pastel and blackhead into this. So I bred my acid black pastel blackhead to the candy het pied. Yeah. So now I'll be able to test. Everything will be het candy.
Right.
I'll figure out which ones are het pied and keep those and try to get those dark genes and crazy patterns into the candy clown pied.
Yeah.
That's, I think, my ultimate end goal.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised no one's busted me yet on this one. So, like, obviously, before we even started talking and stuff about everything with the podcast and the shed test, I mean, I think you've probably seen it by now. I mean, like, I feel like I drenched the market with like black pastel acid stuff.
Yeah,
I love those. I think black pastel and acid, or any of the dark genes, black pastel acid, blackhead acid, mahogany acid, cinnamon acid. List goes on. I feel like once you add a second darkener to acid, I mean, I think it just completely pops, to a different
and that's
level.
how the Wookiee, I have the super Wookiee. It's like completely, it looks almost like the other one. It's a brown snake with the line down the back,
right,
and the crazy belly. And so that's getting into candy here too. So hopefully I get some Wookiee acid het candies out of this.
I'm not gonna lie, when you were mentioning some of the stuff going in your candy and your candy clown pie products, I mean, I kind of really want to see like a Kraken candy, a candy Kraken like that.
That's my second goal is the Kraken. But like my own, the Pompeys are cool, they're nice, but
yeah,
like I like the Kraken way better.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've got Pompeii stuff. I don't have Kraken stuff yet, and I feel like the main reason is just because everyone knows me. I feel like I shit on the Bell Complex probably a little too much, but
yeah, I don't. Only thing I have one Mojave female pastel Mojave that I was the first snake that I tried to breed. I bought an adult female. She was a virgin, but that was my first attempt at a clutch last year, and it worked. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, I have a GHI Mojave female that the acid's going to, just to make some crazy dark.
Right. Yeah. Just load it up.
Yeah. And then, what else? Oh, I have a super black pastel, super vanilla girl that's going to my GHI clown male.
Okay. Yeah.
So that'll help me get a little bit closer because I'll know I'll get black pastel, GHI, heck clowns.
Right.
Pick up a female there. And if I could get this damn super Wookiee breeding, I want to do a Kraken with acid in it, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I'd be right there with you. I mean, I think a lot of those genes like that, like Wookiee, acid, there's so much that you can still, jam together in it. Like I said, I don't have Wookiee yet. I had it, for a little while and stuff. And then I had a buddy for a while that really wanted some Wookiee, so I let him take that one. But otherwise, outside of that, I mean, so I'm Wookieed out right now, no pun intended. But
yeah, I would like to get a Wookiee clown female, just because I know that's what's going to be the hardest for me to get into clown.
Yeah,
is because I would have to make hets next year with the super Wookiee acid male,
right?
And then and then have that female ready with. Or get a red stripe, yellow belly, clown, female. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and I'm kind of like in that same boat. I mean, as soon as I started doing some of the testing, I mean, I'm kind of debating now how I want to use my acid black pastel Enchi clown boy here next year. I'm like, I can go play that game and throw him to a double or a triple or something like that, head or something like that, and just say, well, let's just test all the passes and hope for the best. But
I know. Yeah, I mean, I got all my acid stuff from Jay Royals, the guy who.
Okay, yeah. That's where my acid stuff all came from. Was.
And that's the thing. When I was looking, there wasn't a lot of acid, and I liked it, and I thought it was cool, and I'm like, oh, sweet, I love this, and there's not a lot of it. So. Even now, compared to other genes, there's still not a lot of acid stuff.
No, there really isn't. And
even if this clutch comes out, all of them Wookiee, half of them Wookiee acid heck candies, they've never been made. You can't buy them. I have no idea what I would be able to sell them for.
Yeah, nothing's been posted. Yeah.
And even all the stuff that the black pastel blackhead acid is going to, I look on Morph Market, I'm like, almost every snake I make is going to be more genes than what is up there for sale right now.
No, right.
But
right.
So the plan is get into something that everybody isn't in, but is also cool.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my thing too as well. I mean, acid, while it's not recessive, and I mean, same with Wookiee, I would say too. I mean, I haven't checked that market as much, but
still expensive.
I mean, for a codom perspective, I mean, it's still or dominant perspective, non-recessive. It's still very expensive. It holds its value well, and frankly, I mean, at the last expo, I mean, that I just did this past weekend, I had a guy that came by my booth and he goes, out of all these snakes here, he goes, I don't even like ball pythons. He goes, if I were to get one, he goes, I'd rather get the acid one here than to go get, the clown or this or that or the other with, pied and some of the recessives. So I think that's the unique part is that it's one of those snakes that even when you don't have the recessive in it, I mean, it's still visually appealing and it's not like you see the visual recessive version and you're like, I mean, don't get me wrong, acid clowns are awesome looking. I have one.
I love them. Like I always look at Kittinger Reptiles stuff.
Yeah.
He has some awesome acid clown stuff. I love them.
Yeah.
That's even if I could just make one of them, I'll be happy.
No, right. Right.
Next year, because he did go to my adult clown proven breeder female, and she's got about 8 or 9 eggs in her right now, and she pre-laid, so I should have a decent amount of acid black pastel, hopefully blackhead acid. It'd be awesome if I could remake the dad with that clown in it.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean that's
killer.
Yeah. I mean that's how I am right now. I mean, I've at the point now where it's like you're saying, you're at least remaking the dad or remaking mom, but with 2 hats, with 3 hats,
Right.
and it's not the most visually appealing from something new, but it's the potential for the next 2 years, 3 years type of a thing. So
yeah, he also went to my leopard hypo pastel girl. She's old. She's a couple years old. She's huge. She's not growing follicles. She has tiny, like 12 millimeter follicles forever. I don't know what's going on with her, but hopefully she goes for me at some point.
Don't worry, Gary. We see your comment here. We'll hook you up. You just got a message.
Yeah, man.
It's like a car. It's like a car dealership. You price it for one thing, and then after 3 hours of haggling, and I got to talk to my manager, and
Right.
and then we'll give you that 7.2% financing
for 10 years.
Yeah, for 10 years.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. Like I love this. There's so many snakes that I could afford to buy, but I'm not going to, because my whole goal is to not spend money on this stuff that is like either savings or whatever. Only my extra money goes into this stuff.
Yeah, and that's
I'm not taking out a loan. I'm not going on payment plans. If I don't have, that's the thing. Sometimes like, oh, maybe I'll go on a payment plan for this. I'm like, but I feel like a scumbag doing that because I have that money sitting in the bank.
Right.
Like, why am I going to do that? But
and that's how I was the first few years. I mean, this is like probably the first year where I've started doing select payments, like with my sunset and stuff. And the only reason I started doing them is because now I'm at the point where I'm not trying to play with the extra money. I'm just trying to play with whatever money comes in from sales. So it's like, all right, I need 30 days because I know that'll give me, the last, $500 or something. That way I'm not saying I'm going to owe because if you say you're going to owe yourself back $500, let's all
you're not going to pay yourself back.
You never pay yourself back. You use it towards another one and another one. And then at the end of the year, you wonder why you're like 10 grand less than you should have had in your savings or something.
Right.
So,
and like right now, I'm like, I have some money that I want to spend on a ball python, a really good, expensive ball python. But I'm like, you know what? Let me see what I hatch this year. Like, but then also I don't want to get behind and wait, and then not get, like, I don't want to get any 2023 females right now.
Right.
I get 2022s, so that I don't want to wait though to get until September, October, November when I start making money off of these snakes to,
I see pretty things and I buy them.
That is the truest statement I've ever heard anybody say. He does he's funny.
Be careful with that one. That's how I got into Ultramill.
Yeah.
It was like 8 a.m. in the morning. I went on my phone and the first thing on my news feed was an Ultramill from Grey Reptiles, a Black Peter yellow belly Ultramill female. And next thing you know, he goes, "You want an Ultramill ivory?" And that's how the whole thing.
What does that look like?
It's actually pretty cool.
It's not just white?
No, it's not just white. You have like a light, kind of like a creamsicle orange that goes down the whole snake, and then you still see the ivory yellow stripe across. Huh. So it's really great. When he's in shed, he turns like pink, which is actually kind of cool. You get a pink snake.
Right.
But I actually really like, that kind of perspective. And that's one of the other pieces I think that people forget about. I mean, I think ivories, because you can manipulate the pattern sometimes and stuff, putting them into a recessive like an Ultramill or something, I think actually has a lot of potential, because I've got a leopard lesser Enshi ivory girl that has like these crazy yellow lightning bolts all over her.
That's awesome.
And my goal is to eventually have that in Ultramill at some point. That's if I don't phase yellow belly out of my collection. At some point, my goal is to just have asphalt and gravel. But
yeah.
I think I told you this, I have more gravel in my collection than I do yellow belly. So
nice. Yeah. Last night, I think it was, I was looking, I was like, man, I should just get a super gravel or super asphalt female just to throw something into. So that'll probably be something I do with snake money this year is just get, super one of them so that I can throw things into it.
I like snake payments because I have an addiction. We already know that, Todd.
That's funny.
Todd went hard and fast. He's got some really sweet, hopefully clown puzzle stuff coming here.
Oh, geez. It's the way to start, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, we're coming up here on the hour. We also got to remember that Charlie's an hour ahead. So while it's 9 p.m. by me, it's 10 p.m. by him. And with his job, he's probably up at 2 a.m. So let's put that in perspective. So, folks, if you've got any, last minute questions, curious about Charlie's collection, the work he does with the shed testing, feel free to throw that in the chat. Also, as well, definitely, if you haven't already, go like him on Instagram, go follow him on Facebook, reach out to him if you got questions about shed testing.
It was funny. I love talking about it. I love BSing about it. And
right. I don't think anyone got your joke. We were on what was that? The bomb projects ones with the shed testing. You made that comment in there, and you're like, it's a ton of BS.
Yeah.
I think everyone thought you were serious.
Like, oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, yeah, he bought a Confusion Batman. It's unbelievable.
Oh man, where'd you get that?
He bought those three snakes in the last, what is it, a month? I think maybe he bought those 3 snakes.
Ooh.
He's a hooker on the side though, so he could afford it.
Oh, that's funny. And it was funny you mentioned Gomez pythons because I posted today, and folks, for those of you who haven't seen it on the Instagram page, I was asking, suggestions for people that you potentially want to see as we look into season 2, which is going to be kicking off in July. Our first guest is not announced yet for season 2. It's mainly because we're trying to get a shark breeder to be during Shark Week, which will be July 12th. So we'll actually find out if that happens. But I was asking for that. It was funny. You mentioned Gomez pythons, and literally Shane had PM'd me like probably within the past 2-3 hours and was like, hey, you should get Gomez pythons on. So
he's a great guy. He's like super cool, awesome dad, awesome family guy, but has like an awesome ball python collection too. Like, yes, I do get sheds with shit in it, and they're like, I try to tell people, like, flatten them out. When you get them out, flatten them out. Like, make it like this, not like a used condom, because it builds the bacteria in there, and it makes it more difficult, to get the DNA out of it.
Yeah.
And, there have been a couple that I have not been able to get DNA out of. Not a lot, but I would say now I think I just had my last one the other day. I think maybe 3 or 4 out of the few hundred, maybe thousand that I've done. But it does happen, and I have no idea why. And Dr. Seidel, who started doing this, I asked her, and she's like, I've had the same. And
Steve.
Yeah.
You also want to send Charlie anaconda sheds. I did that too.
Dude, I swear to God, I've never seen a shed that big in my life.
So that girl, like, I don't remember if I told you, but I mean, she went on a diet because she was so big when I got her. I mean, she's massive. She barely fits in the 70 series. And we put her on a diet this year. You got the diet version of her. But she had always given us 4 slugs. She finally gave us all 11 eggs with no slugs this year because she had to drop like 600 grams.
She's probably overweight, yeah.
Right. We got her from my buddy. I mean, he could never get her to breed. I got her to start breeding and dropping 6 and 3 years.
No, right?
She didn't prove out head hypo. No, she didn't prove out, but I didn't really I'm not too sad. The only upside would have been is that as I'm moving it into the Ultramil Super Stripe and the Ultramil Highway, if I could have made Ultra Glows, I mean, awesome. If not, I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I can just buy a hypo.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I couldn't. I was like, does this guy think I could do like boas or something, or Burmese pythons? And I'm like, what the hell? It was the biggest shed I've seen.
As soon as you said that, like, I'm not even joking. Like, I'm tempted. So I've got a bigger girl. I got a girl that I'm not sure if she's part Volta or something like that, but it's just a black pastel girl. There's nothing else in her, but I was going to do it as a joke. She's roughly around 6 foot long, and she's got a body like this. When she hits a rat, like, she's I mean, if you take a medium rat, it doesn't even make a lump in her. She's the only girl, like, she eats like a boa constrictor. She's like, yo, you can give me a large.
Yeah. Yeah. I built another shed next door to the snake room for rats and mice and ASFs. So
the clown testing, he's still
I don't do the clown testing, but RGI does the clown testing, and theirs should be 100% accurate. Yeah. Yeah.
4,800 grams. Hoofta. I think that's is that close to 5 pounds? I think maybe might be 5-6 pounds.
So it's 5 kilos. So whatever. So it's probably like 3-4 pounds.
3-4 pounds. That's a big snake. But I mean, folks, I mean, if you don't get any other questions, stuff like that, I want to make sure Charlie can actually get to bed or answer however a million shed testing questions he just probably got here blowing up his Instagram. But
yeah, I try not to look at my phone.
But I mean, from my side, I mean, she laid 14 last season. Holy crap.
That GHI Mojave I got from another buddy in Long Island, Dave from Edge Exotics. She laid 13 last year, and I think she's going to prelay now. She's shedding right now. I think it's her prelay. I might have missed her ovulation. I have to ultrasound her when she's done shedding and see. But I couldn't even count the follicles when I was going through. I'm like, holy shit. So he's like, dude, she's like a 13 egg layer. I was like, all right,
yeah. But you know, folks, I mean, like I said, if you haven't already checked out Charlie's page, please do so. If you haven't subscribed to the Tread, please do so. We got more stuff coming next week. We're closing out season 1 with Shane. In between our seasons, you will see some mashups, some shorts, some other things kind of going on to keep you enticed. But we're trying to do this like a TV show. So 1, I get a break, and 2, we don't bore you with content for 52 weeks of the year. So folks, I mean, if you got no more questions, I mean, from my side, from Nick Kerskevich and the Tread, I appreciate you having you on, Charlie, and you know, feel free to close out if there's anything you want to say to the audience here.
No, thanks everybody for coming and listening and questions, and thank you for having me on. And I definitely look forward to see what you got coming in the future. Just even on the podcast end, it's definitely a different type of podcast, I feel like, than the others. I like it, and hopefully it grows, and I think you'll be doing pretty good. So
yeah, no, definitely.
I'll be on again, and let me know.
Yeah, no, we'll totally probably end up getting people on here again and stuff like that. We'll probably do mashups with multiple people. Other concepts we've thrown around for season 2, folks. So if you're down for it, let me know. We've thought about, for gecko people, battle of the geckos. So if we want to do leopard geckos versus lychees versus crusties and do tag team battles of constructive arguments. If we want to do UFC style call outs, those are all welcome here on the podcast. So, folks, if you've got cool new ideas, feel free to reach out, shoot them my way. We'll get them here. We'll get stuff on here. Same thing. If you know someone you think that'd be great to be a guest, feel free to shoot it my way. But otherwise, besides that,
Are you going to Tinley in October or November?
Yeah. So I vent Tinley every year with both my 2 brands, both my tarantula breeding and my snake side as well.
Oh, you breed tarantulas?
Yep. I'm small time on the tarantula side. My collection's maybe around 300 in my personal collection. That's small. That's small.
A lot of fucking spiders, man.
I know people who have 1,200, 2,000. I can barely keep up with the 300.
I want one, but then I really would never get my wife in this room.
I mean, I can hook you up. I feel like at some point, like I have sacks.
You have them on Morph Market or on your Instagram and stuff?
I never post them on Morph Market. I separate it out. So Cyber Tees, which is like, if you look at the bottom here, my banner right there, okay. Cyber Tees. I have my own separate Instagram. I split that all out because if people say, hey, I'm looking to get a spider, then I'm like, what do you mean? Like a spider ball python or like what, so I split everything out, and I figured that if at one point, if I ever got to a point where it's like I can't do it all, I need to like slow down on one of the projects. That way, I could do one or the other. That's why I've broken everything down that way. I mean, it makes it easier for me. But we supply like Iowa State's insect and invert zoo. So
cool.
roughly around, I think it's around a dozen of my tarantulas are there on display for research or whatever college students do with tarantulas when they're drunk. So
now, do they like? Can you handle them without them like stinging you or whatever the fuck?
So that's like one of the things, like they don't have enough of a memory to know. So like one day it could be fine, one day it could be bad. I look at them like fish. Like, do you stick your hand in and just like
Right,
play around with a big mouth bass? Like,
right.
not really. If you're Orner exotics and you're Gary, I mean, you'll handle your death stalker scorpion and just and your six-eyed sand spider, right? Right, Gary. he,
I would like
he
one of those. What are the glow in the dark scorpions?
The what are those? The emperor scorpions. So
Emperors. Yeah, I want one of
yeah, yeah. I mean, I
those.
only work with, I think, what is it? One, two, three, four. I think 4 or 5 scorpion species right now. So that's the newer side because scorpions aren't as forgiving with a lot of stuff if you get stung, and
Yeah.
I don't want to be digging my grave plot before I've even picked it out. So
Yeah. So me and a bunch of the guys from Blue Line Morphs Baker.
I know the name. I don't know
Yeah.
him
So
personally, but
we're in his Patreon. There's a bunch of us. We're all going out to Tinley. So there should be a bunch of us New Yorkers out there. A couple other guys, like I don't know if Mike's going, but he's across the country, and and
yeah.
like everybody in Baker's Blue Line Morphs Patreon, they all get discounts and everything on the sheds. So
Right.
If anybody wants to check him out, but
yeah, no, I
yeah.
mean, definitely. I mean, for Tinley, obviously, stop by.
Oh my God, yeah. Now I
you,
know you're vending. I'm definitely.
we're like a little tiny booth. It's funny, like I'm good friends with Tony at Hardwire, but it's like you've got like Tony's massive booth of Hardwire, and then it's like my little booth, and then like KDF Reptiles is also like over there. Like it's a fun row. We're just not like in that.
Well, that's cool though that you even got a booth, like because it's probably
right.
hard to get, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and folks, we also got the Schaumburg show for NARBC coming up here in July. That show, I'm going to be live at the show. We're going to see how that goes on Friday. And then because I mean, that's also my backyard. So I'm from Illinois, Chicago, take it or leave it. Some good, some bad pieces about that, but
I'm from Brooklyn. So.
But yeah, I mean that one. I mean my goal is for Schaumburg. I'm not cool enough, and there's enough other people that host stuff for Tinley yet. But Schaumburg, I'll be hosting a lot of stuff for a lot of different breeders, meet and greets. My goal is probably do something Saturday after show for that one. Hopefully, eventually, I'll be a big enough name at Tinley to be able to do that as well. Because I mean, I grew up literally 15 minutes from Tinley Park Expo, so
no wonder why you're into it. I bet I don't know much about the area, but I'm guessing a lot of people around there are into reptiles now.
Yeah. I mean, Brian Potter, I mean, obviously was the one that kind of, I think, kicked that off, created Chicago Reptile House, created NARBC, drove, I think, a lot of that market. And I think the fact that Chicago market, I would say already at that time had a pretty good, I would say, exotic, fish world.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of those things kind of stack on top of each other. People who like fish, you see a lot of people that also go from fish to reptiles. You see a lot of people that go.
I have a 200-gallon saltwater tank in the wall in my basement. So, and my son has I bought him a little 20-gallon saltwater tank. I've had fish my whole life too.
Yeah. I mean, and that was my thing. I mean, I did reptiles till college. Paused in college. I did fish. I had a really nice fish tank. And, as the story goes, my fish tank doesn't exist anymore because when I was backing it up, I was going to be moving. So I got all my fish in the bucket and then I was going to be moving and I figured I'd put it on the back of my pickup. I'd back it up just straight to the dumpster in the alleyway by the apartment I lived in. I was like, it's not going to be that bad. Well, obviously, things slide off trucks like, centrifugal force and all that type of stuff. And slid off, cracked the whole tank, just shattered. And I was like, I'm just going to leave this by the dumpster. It's trash now.
Yeah.
And, all I had left at that point was terrarium. So I was Euromastics for a little bit. And then from there to ball pythons. And it's on one of the earlier episodes, but the only reason I'm in ball pythons is because a Tegu breeder wouldn't sell me a Tegu. I went there to go pick up a blue Tegu, and then he had to show me about his ball pythons, and he wouldn't take my stupid $500 because he really wanted to sell me ball pythons. So I said, screw you. And then 2 weeks later, I mean, is when I ended up buying a ball python, but from someone completely different. So
awesome.
But yeah, no, I mean, definitely, obviously, you know, if y'all keep, you know, come on down to Tinley, like I said, I mean, that's my home, that's my backyard. So, you know, happy to, you know, hook you guys up with all the good food places, anything you guys want to do, like I said, after the show, whether it be Fridays, Saturdays and stuff, you know, happy to do that, show you guys around.
Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch, and especially when the time comes around, I'll let you know.
No, yeah, no, straight up. I mean, but other than that, folks, I mean,
yeah, thanks for having me, man.
No, definitely. And, you know, talk to you guys and see y'all next week. Folks, remember, Shane works nights, so we're doing a special on Saturday next week. That way Shane's not like doing it while he's working, because you can't work and do a podcast at the same time. So folks, remember, so look at the thumbnail, special time on Saturday next week, and we'll be closing out season 1. Thank you all for tuning in.
Take care.